Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast,
a space dedicated to spreading the message that you have the power within to create everything you seek.
So if you're ready to enroll in a new kind of higher learning, the kind that leads to true personal freedom, hang here with us.
We're your hosts, Rudi and Anniston, and this is Empowered Life. Welcome to the Empowered Life Podcast. My name is Rudi Riekstins, and I'm your host. And today we're joined by Anniston Riekstins. And I'm just so excited to have the two of us on this podcast to talk about this episode, because we always talk about how we love to talk about things that are happening in our life. Man, and this just happened yesterday.
We love this topic that we are going to be talking about today. And it's because it's something that happens frequently. And I will definitely feel like, I feel like it's a shift. When we were able to shift the way that we think about this, everything shifted in our life. And what we're talking about is resistance. And yesterday we got all set up. You know, Rudi had the studio all set up for us to record some podcasts. It was a Saturday. We had already, blocked out a good portion of the day for us to record some episodes together because his schedule is crazy. My schedule is crazy. And this is what life looks like right now. So Saturdays become podcast days oftentimes. And so we sit down to record, and all of a sudden things start not working that normally do. The computers wouldn't sync up. The internet was funny. The lighting wasn't working right. And just when we would get everything right and sit down, something else would go wrong, almost to the point where it was becoming comical. I thought it was funny. Rudi didn't think it was so funny.
I really drop F-bombs, but let me tell you, when I do, they are justified. And yesterday I dropped a lot of F-bombs. We have a recording studio set up in our home. And so it's really easy. Every camera is in its place, the lighting in its place, everything is just arranged so that when we have the availability of the schedule, we walk in, we plug it in, we put the power on, we hit record, everything is done. And yesterday, man, as Anniston was saying, it was just left turn after left turn after left turn after left turn, and nothing was letting us turn right. We finally sat down, and then one of the cameras stopped. And I'm like, why would the camera just shut down? And then we got to get that going. So it was like nonstop. And finally, we got to the point where we were like, WTF. And when I say we, I mean me. And then I pushed through, and Anniston said, okay, why don't we give it a minute? And I'm like, fuck giving it a minute. Let's get this going now. And in that moment of absolute frustration, we sat down to record what was supposed to be a really beautiful podcast topic, at least. And we started recording, and there was very little flow. It was janky at best. And then when we finished recording, we uploaded to our studio where the producers then take over and edit and prepare the show. And I just said to her, I just want to go back and just listen to the first minute or two. And out came this robotic sounding voice out of both of us. And so in addition to all the other hurdles, the audio was absolutely jacked.
And that's when I just said to Rudi, I was like, clearly, and I had said it a little earlier too. I said, I'm noticing some resistance to us recording today. And I know we had a plan. I mean, this was our plan, and we were going to stick to it, but things weren't moving smoothly. And then sure enough, when we recorded, it didn't flow. And Rudi and I very rarely, I can probably count on one hand how many times an episode hasn't just flowed, and we have had very little editing. I mean, it's been great because we easily fall into the flow of our conversation. But yesterday it was clunky and it was hard. And, it's funny looking at, so after that, we just said, okay, enough for today. Clearly the powers that be do not want us to record today. Do we know why? We have no idea why, nor will we probably ever really understand why. However, this is where trust comes in. And I think it's an overarching trust in life. And we learned this lesson a long time ago. Yet what's funny is we'll find ourselves in it, and we're totally unconscious to it until we are. And then when we become conscious to it and say, wow, we're getting resistance, This isn't happening to us. This is happening for us. We need to be grateful, even though we have no idea why. And even though it's a major inconvenience to what our plans were. But then we're able to move forward without any negative feeling around it and let it go. And in fact, feel grateful, just trusting that we're being protected, we're being guided at all times.
You know, I have had to deal with this lesson so many times. I think we all do. I just think for the majority of us, we're oblivious to it happening at the time. Like I was yesterday. I was so busy pushing my agenda forward that we had this to do. This is what we wanted to achieve. We had this timeline. Here were all the things that needed to happen in order to fit into what is my busy schedule, what is Anniston's busy schedule, aligning our lives, that there was no other room for anything else. This is what needed to happen today. I've had to learn that lesson so many times that I actually tattooed the word trust on my arm. And I'm not really a big tattoo person.
So you wouldn't ever forget. I mean, it is so visible to you.
And I said to Anniston as a joke one day, I'm going to literally write the freaking word trust on my arm so that I never forget, so that when I'm doing something and I'm trying to force something forward and my two hands are pushed past me, I read the words trust. Well, yesterday I must have been wearing a long sleeve shirt or something because I was not in the trusting. I was not in the flow. So we want to really talk about what is resistance and why are we coming up against resistance? And then if you were to pay attention to the fact that there is resistance around a certain topic at a certain time, that it's preventing you because you don't have all the information. You know, you're connected to this incredible tapestry, this divinity, and we love to refer to the divinity of all things flowing to you and through you and around you. But you only have a vantage point that's right in front of you, what you can see. I liken that to being in a car, driving at night. It's pitch dark. There's no lights on the road. And you turn your car lights on and you can see 200 feet in front of you. That is your vantage point. That is life. And you just have to trust that past the 200 feet, there will be more light when you get there. And that past those 200 feet, when you get there around the bend, there will be more light. And the light will continue to illuminate what's happening. But in life, we don't have that vantage point, meaning the light and the dark. We just have where we're at. And it feels like there's all the information and that's all we're going to get. And so yesterday I was trying to drive a very specific behavior. We had sat down with an agenda of what we wanted to achieve, what we wanted to talk about. And well, the universe had a very different plan. Something wasn't aligned. Something wasn't working. Something wasn't set up for it at that time. And maybe it was our energy. Maybe it was my energy. Maybe had we recorded that, people listening would have picked up on the disconnect. Maybe they wouldn't have enjoyed it. Maybe the words weren't flowing. Maybe we didn't have enough of a vantage point. But here's what I do know today. We woke up this morning on a Sunday and said, you know what? We need to record today. Like we have to get this done. But we both woke up saying, I actually feel much better today than I felt yesterday. I feel more rested today than I felt the day before. And we are also recording this topic today.
And we weren't planning on doing that yesterday.
We were not planning on talking about this at all yesterday. And we both chuckled because we said, you know, we really feel like this is a topic that we think people need to learn because, man, did we get our butts kicked yesterday.
And, you know, as teachers, you always teach most what you need to learn or most what you're going through. And so our life really becomes our not only our practice ground of where we practice what we preach, but also where we get our content, you know, simultaneously. So there have been so many stories, like so many things in our past. And some of those things we've shared with you guys on the podcast, you know, times where we've been hell-bent on buying a home and just being blocked one time after another, where freak tornadoes come through and annihilate the home we were going to put the offer on, or where, you know, a house that had been sitting for 12 months and then with no offers, we make an offer. And then all of a sudden another offer comes in, full cash offer that we can't beat. You know, it's stuff like that just comes out of nowhere. And so easily we can construe what's happening, life's events, as happening against us, as just another reason why we're unlucky. The universe doesn't love us, that things always come in our way. Things are always falling apart. And you can easily shift out of that into a different way of looking at the world. And when you look at life's events that are not going to plan, or what you're perceiving as our blocks and obstacles as guided protection, things can change. You know, I am always booking travel for us, as a family, or for Rudi, oftentimes if he's traveling, or for myself. That's just kind of part of my role, I guess, if you will, in our marriage, because I enjoy it. And I've learned that when I'm booking travel, if I start to come up against resistance, like for instance, I'm trying to book a flight and for whatever reason the internet's being funny and it's not letting me do it, and I'm trying again and again, to not try to push through that. Because when I do and I don't pay attention to that, that's when I'm forcing. And when I'm forcing, then things aren't going to go to plan. I cannot tell you how many times I've forced something, and then it comes down to the day we're meant to travel, the flights get canceled for whatever random reason, or the hotel we're going to doesn't work out. And I'm like, man, I knew I should have listened to that intuition. And we think intuition is just from inside of us. But I believe that the universe communicates with us in these ways, and we just have to look for the signs. And sometimes we are so attached to the way we want things to be going that we ignore the signs.
I want to tell you a story, and I hope you're going to enjoy this as much as I enjoy sharing the story. I did not enjoy experiencing the story as much. And it's a two-part story. The first is I really made the commitment with Anniston. I was going to start to show up, and we're going back now a very long time. And I was going to start to show up as the spiritual teacher I want to be. I wanted to start showing up as the coach I want to be. I started showing up as the man that I am in my marriage, meaning the conversations we have at home, but that the external world doesn't get to see. And I all of a sudden made this commitment on my first vacation with Anniston in what had been, I think, 3 years or 4 years.
We had just had our daughter, and she was 6 months old. And it was our first vacation because we had 2 kids under the age of 2. I mean, we needed that vacation.
My mom had said, why don't you guys take a week, go somewhere, have a break. I'm here. I'm in your home. Everything's going to be fine. And at that time, we were so spent, just exhausted, a lot going on, building a business and raising 2 kids, newborn baby. Anniston had been traveling a lot with work. There was just a lot going on in our lives. So we whisk off to Hawaii on vacation. And while we're there, I decide in Rudi fashion, this is where I'm going to start to launch my entry into what I'm doing. Not the time, not the place, because we were supposed to be on vacation. We were supposed to be, paddleboarding, kayaking, lying on our butts, doing nothing. But no, I decided this was where I was going to start to film. Hawaii is the inspiration. It's one of the heart centers. I want to tap into the energy. I want to film in this beautiful home that we've rented. I want to go out and film on the beach. And so I bogart this vacation and I make it work. And Anniston lovingly entertains me and says, I'm going to give you a certain amount of time each day for you to do this. And, then we'll move off and do what we want to do. And so we come to a compromise, and I start recording in this home. And then all of a sudden, the smoke alarm starts to beep in the house. Every time I hit record, beep, beep. And I'd be like, you've got to be kidding me. And so we couldn't reach the ceiling. There was no ladder. We couldn't change it. And then we would wait, and there would be no smoke alarm sound, like nothing. And we'd wait and we'd wait and we'd wait, thinking it's going to be every 2 minutes on a cycle, nothing. And I start recording, beep, beep. And I'd be like, you've got to be kidding me. And then eventually this became so incessant that I had to stop recording. So we went outside to record, and it was a beautiful, picturesque day. And then all of a sudden the wind kicks up. And then we moved to a place where there's an alcove, and then mosquitoes just start to attack me, not Anniston, me. And it was resistance after resistance after resistance. I'm going to leave that story there because it continued, and I continued to film, and it was an absolute mess.
It was not my favorite vacation.
No, it was not my favorite vacation either. And I have profusely apologized many times since. So fast forward, I am at home. I'm building a 7-figure company with my brother. We are in the startup phase of a business. I have 2 children under the age of 2. I am in the process of writing a book, and this is all done after hours. I am meditating every morning. I'm not going to tell you what your beliefs should be, but I do think it's important I share what my beliefs are. And Anniston and I believe that we are connected to this divinity, this tapestry, and that outside of what is our physical self, our thoughts and our feelings, we have help. And this help is around us in the form of spirit. And you can call it spirit, you can call it guardian angels, you can call them angels, you can call it anything that you want. but there is a divinity that is around you, that is guiding you, nudging you, protecting you, and facilitating certain moments. And never has it been more true than it was in this instance, because we'd just come back from vacation. I was very frustrated that it didn't pan out the way that I wanted to pan out, that everything was a hurdle, everything was a block. And I remember being at home. Anniston was traveling. I had my daughter in my arms all night because she was crying. She couldn't settle. My son was a little colicky, so it was running between the two rooms. I'd get him settled, and she would wake up, then she would sleep, and he would wake up. And I was trying to write this book, and I wanted to wake up at 4:00 in the morning so I could meditate and start writing my book. And there was just all of this going on. And I was having this dialogue saying to, this support system that I have around me, what the F, man? Like, if you want me to do this work and you want me to move forward, and if I'm going to bring this into the world, why does it have to be so hard? And the smoke alarm in my daughter's room goes, beep, beep. And it was literally at that time, while I'm holding her, while I'm yelling at the universe, and I'm like, seriously, cut a brother some slack. And I got a reminder right there, not the time, not the place. And I actually sat down that day and took a photograph of my daughter on my chest. And it's one of the first photographs I've ever put on Instagram. And it's still on Instagram today if you choose to go back and scroll all the way to the beginning. And you'll see me with these bloodshot eyes holding my daughter. And I ended up sitting there, giving myself a breather and realizing, man, I am ruining this precious time right now. My memory would have been around trying to get something across the finish line, to hustle, to push. And in that moment, I was being reminded just to be present, because my daughter was only going to be that tiny little bubble on me for so long.
Life is a journey, and I think we get so fixated on the destination. Like, we just got to get there. We got to get there. We got to get there. And we have this plan that we're negating all the beautiful moments that get to happen in between. And I just want you to imagine all of a sudden, if somebody, a genie in a bottle said, okay, I'm going to today give you exactly what you want, your biggest dream for your life, and it'll be instantaneous. And they just hand it to you. How would you feel? And then what? Right? And what if instead someone said, listen, it's going to take a little while to get to your desired destination, but let me tell you, there are going to be some adventures. There are going to be some amazing high points along the way. There are going to be some great challenges you overcome. You're going to become a completely different person on the process of achieving your dreams. Which would you choose? I would choose the latter. I'm all about the journey. And I realized that earlier on, especially in our marriage, I think it was because we didn't believe that it was possible for us, that we wanted it all right now, and that we were willing to ignore the resistance when it came up and try to fight our way upstream. And it felt hard, and it didn't work, by the way. Like, anytime we've tried to force something, it falls flat. It's like it lacks the luck, the energy, the momentum that you get when you just follow the flow, and you drop into the flow, you look for the signs and you follow them. And when you do, I feel like that's when you follow the path of least resistance, and it gets to be easy and it gets to be fun because you're not making it hard. It's still hard work. The difference is you're not getting in the way. You're just responding to what is happening and saying, oh, okay, that's a red light. It's like, I want you to imagine that the universe has a red, a stoplight for each of us, and it's red or it's yellow or it's green. And it can't always be green. There's going to be times when it's just not the right time. And for whatever reason, it isn't. And it's not as we love to say, it's not rejection. It's not saying this isn't for you. It could just very well be redirection to something better, or it's not the right timing.
I want to give you two examples because I believe people need to be able to see something in their minds to be able to grasp information in a different context. And one is, I want you to imagine that what you're chasing, you think is right in front of you. And you're pushing and you're pushing and you're pushing and you're trying to get the results of what you want right in front of you, pushing, and it's not working, and it's not working, and it's not working, and it's not working. And all the universe is trying to do is turn you around and show you the thousands of other easy ways that it can happen. But you're too busy trying to go forward. And another one would be if you're in a warehouse with a flashlight and it's pitch dark and it's full of everything that you want and all of the potentials of having what you want. And you're shining your flashlight on one thing only, but the light keeps going on and off and it's flickering and it's flickering and it's flickering, and you're shaking the flashlight and you're trying to get the focus back on the thing that you want, and you're frustrated. But if you just turned around, you would be able to turn the light switch on, and there was a tremendous amount of anything and everything. I cannot tell you how many times in my life I have wanted something. I have tried to force it to happen. You've heard me beautifully articulate my poor wife having to deal with me, and when I want something, how bullish I am. I want to achieve it, even if it's at the cost of our only vacation in a really long time, because I'm really passionate. But sometimes I need to be reminded that when I'm met with resistance, and I am very good at this, just not every day. And yesterday was one of those examples where it took me 3 hours, excruciating hours, to realize, hey, maybe it's just not today. And you know what? When we showed up the day after, just totally different. Beautiful experience, really easy. Everything was in the flow, and everything, including the experience, was a joy. And so I have to trust the outcome is going to be just as beautiful. So what do we do if we are in a moment and we're catching resistance and we're filled with the angst, the frustration, the irritation, the resent? What do we do?
Well, first of all, you have to acknowledge that you're attaching an emotion to an outside event. You're attaching a judgment, right? So I think you always use the analogy I love of the scuba suit. You've got to like imagine that you're stepping out of the scuba. You're going to unzip the full body wetsuit. You're going to step outside of it and you're going to observe. Because the minute you can do that and you start making it neutral, right? So yesterday, everything that was happening, it was inherently neutral. The computer wasn't working. That could be, depending on who's looking at that situation, that could be a good thing. It could be a really bad thing. Well, yesterday we were making it a bad thing, right? We were saying that's bad. That shouldn't be happening. So if instead we could have said, let's just take a pause. What is our environment telling us right now? Well, we've got that evidence over there that's not working. That evidence over there that's not working. We've tried a couple of things to solve it, and then other things start not working. What is this telling us? Okay, this is resistance. This is telling us something. This is telling us to stop and to pause and to ask the question, is this the right action right now? And we've learned to trust that we will always get the feedback of if it is or if it isn't. And a lot of times it's not only what's happening outside of us, it's how it feels inside of us. If it's feeling easy and right now, like it's flowing, everything's flowing this morning, it's been great. But if it doesn't feel good, then you know you need to stop. Again, the key is you have to come from a neutral space. And once you can make it neutral, and then you can make a decision, okay, wow, I'm getting resistance. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to do something that's not going to end with the best outcome. And I feel like I'm being given a gift right now. And that's where you turn the negative into the positive. And you have to be able to acknowledge that from your vantage point, you probably won't understand the why, and maybe not yet. Like for us, it was this morning when all of a sudden you had the inspiration, or maybe it was me. And I said, we should actually really record a podcast episode on this topic. And you were like, yeah, we should. Well, guess what? That wouldn't have happened yesterday because we were in it. You know, we had to step out of the emotion and make peace with it. And then the gift was there, right? And then we saw the gift, and the gift of recording an episode that was very inspired from a true deep place that I believe is going to impact people for years to come. And that wouldn't have happened if we hadn't have experienced that yesterday. So it's getting to a place where you can really look at the world and your reality through and any level of resistance as life is happening for me.
I want you to think about what you've just heard on the episode today, and I want you to start to challenge some of the thoughts that you have and then some of the beliefs that you have around this world that we live in. We believe that there is a divinity in every moment, and because there's a moment and you're present to the moment means there's value and meaning in you being in that moment. We talk about it a lot. We also believe that you have guidance and you have support, and that there is an understanding, there is a knowing. We call it God. You can call it anything you want, that knows more than you do about why you're here, what's coming next, what you should or shouldn't be doing. And so when you start to live the most joyful life, because we're all chasing joy, the cornerstones of our company, When we sat down, our foundations was power, meaning having our internal power, having abundance, having freedom, but above all else, living a life of joy. Well, you can have joy without abundance. You can have joy without financial freedom. You can have joy without all these other things, because you get to decide where is that joy in that moment. And that's the one thing that's going to bring you everything. And in that moment of feeling resistance, I was trying to push through it because I was thinking about all the things I have to do, what's coming up this week. There's no way to fit this in. I've got a lot going on. Anderson's got a lot going on. We've got a trip coming up. There's just so much. Our world is very, very full. And so in my mind, I was like, this needs to work. And then I avoided paying attention to the evidence. When in life you focus in on the evidence, what is happening around you and what are you making it mean? How is it feeling? That is going to be an indicator to you of whether you're in the flow, whether you're not in the flow. We talk about taking a ride on the river. Imagine you're in a little canoe. Your feet are in the canoe. You don't have an oar or a paddle in the water. You are just floating, meandering beautifully towards your destination. That is life when you were feeling joyful. Yesterday, we were in a canoe. We had lost the freaking paddles. We were hitting every rock on the way down. We were getting stuck sideways. The canoe tipped over upside down. My wife sat on top, waited for me to come out of the water. Like, it was an absolute nightmare. And at any point in time, we could have just stopped and said, we're feeling resistance. Maybe we should do this another time. Maybe we don't have all the information yet. And instead of forcing it, trusting it. So where in your life can you begin to trust and not force?
I also find that this happens a lot, like creatively for me. Like if I sit down to write and, I had this plan and I've carved out this time and it just doesn't flow and it's like not working. I've learned not to force that. I've learned not to just push through, because what comes through is never what I wind up moving forward with. It's almost like, I hate to say a waste of time, but I feel like if I would have paid attention rather than trying to make something happen, I can say, well, what does feel expansive right now? Like, what could I use this time right now to do otherwise? And I think sometimes it's just to rest. Sometimes it's just to take it easy. And, we've learned a lot about, and I think we've spoken about this on previous podcast episodes, the benefit of stillness and the benefit of just doing nothing and taking it easy is when a lot of things really germinate. And it gives you time to refuel. And sometimes it's just not fully baked yet. And so for those of you that are entrepreneurs out there, you're running your own businesses or you're writing books or you're even maybe making your own podcast, and you have to honor the creative flow. When you hit that boulder, you hit that resistance, it's going to be temporary. It will go away and there will be a right time.
So your homework really is to start to look at all of the evidence that is in your life. Where right now are you picking up resistance? Where are you wanting to do something? You have an idea and a timeline of when it should happen and how it should happen, but you're not being met with the ease and the flow. Our advice to you would be doing a gut check, going inward and asking yourself, man, what is it that I want to do? And then acknowledging that that is in you, coming in you, to you, through you. It's meant for you. But because it's not working doesn't mean it's not working for you. It means you are being guided, you are being protected, and you are being put into a position where you are being either held in a waiting zone for the right timing, the right opportunity, the right information, the right something to come in, and then you'll be released to the next stage, or you haven't yet fully landed on what it is that you're meant to do. And go into that place where you trust what it is that is meant for you. And if you could start to live more in the trusting and less in the trying to do when there's being met with resistance, you can live a more joyful life. But added to that, you're going to achieve a tremendous amount more success. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Empowered Life podcast. It was incredible for us to be able to finally put this one down in the books. And with all of what came up and all the resistance we experienced to provide this, we hope that it brings tremendous value to you and helps you live a little bit more of a joyful and abundant life. Thank you so much for joining us on the Empowered Life podcast. As always, we freaking love you guys. We'll catch you in the next episode.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And we would love your support in leaving us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Make sure to check the show notes for more information on how you can find us online and on Instagram. Now go create an amazing day for yourself, and we'll see you again soon.